Once upon there was a time, a good time, called Mardi Gras. Now, Mardi Gras was ruled by many kings and their queens, all pretty much the same. Then one day, the great movers of the community received the news. A new kind of king? Doing what? Oh, mirror, mirror on the wall, who now? Carnival would never be the same again. Bacchus had arrived. Bacchus, the crew that gave Carnival back to the people, presents Bacchus 9, Henry the Fonz Winkler. The largest pre-carnival crowd in the history of Mardi Gras packed the streets February 20th to hail the newest monarch of revelry. It seemed half the population had turned out to welcome Bacchus 9, Henry the Fonz Winkler.
This is a knockout. My parents are right here. You don't want to stop them. That's my girl. It is really a pleasure. This is an exciting night. You want to be up here? Woo! Hey, this is nuts. Let me tell you, I sit back there. It's true, when I first came here, I was told that if you love New Orleans, New Orleans loves you back.
Bacchus had always done things a little better, a little bigger. 1977 wasn't to be outdone. Preparations for the giant floats had been completed. It was time to preview the results. February 6th, open house at the Den of Bacchus on the West Bank. Crew members, families, and friends turned out in their best holiday mood to eat, drink, and be everything a carnival crew should be. This year's theme was Happily Ever After, and everyone did his part to turn a title into a prophecy, ever so happily. The crew of Bacchus had once again set the stage for an all-out explosion into Carnival. Soon it was time for the arrival of the new monarch himself, the heraldry. The pomp and circumstance. The royal coach was met by members of the crew, and members of the members' families, and members of just about every membership in town. Bacchus had chosen well. Bestowing favors as he went, Mr. Winkler got his first taste of a New Orleans Mardi Gras. King Henry.
Yes.
Welcome to New Orleans, almighty ruler.
This is great. I was in New Orleans when I was 6 years old. We went on a trip from New York to Florida, and my father took us to New Orleans. My sister and I came here, and what a way to come back.
Well, King Henry also
King Henry,
had your father succeeded.
No more taxes.
Had your father succeeded in getting you into the lumber business, you could have gotten off that plane unnoticed today.
Really, it's true. But
What kind of a vision do you have of Mardi Gras now?
I don't know. I see it. The reason that I'm asked, to come someplace 50 times a day. I'm asked to go somewhere or lend my name somewhere. And somehow the Mardi Gras to me is a historic event in this country. It is part of American history. And I'm very proud to be a part of that, I just think it's really, it is one of the most festive, the most unique festivals in this country. And I'm very proud to be the king of the Mardi Gras.
Even Mom and Dad were overwhelmed by that Bacchus magic. Well, a joy indeed, Mr. and Mrs. Harry Winkler, mother and father of Henry Winkler. How are you, Mrs. Winkler?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm very excited to be here. And it's lovely. So many people. I didn't expect such a marvelous coming.
Did you feel like a star when you got off the plane and
Yes,
saw the...
I did.
Huh?
Yeah, a little.
How does it feel to be a star?
I'm a star. I'm the mother of a star.
Yeah, so how does it feel to be a failure as a father of Henry Winkler? Huh?
I tell you, I didn't have in my furthest dreams these expectations. And since our wedding, I didn't have a reception like this in New Orleans now, you know, which was 40 years ago, by the way, the wedding. And I must say, it's a miracle to us.
What did you think that Henry would someday become when he was small?
When he was small, I thought maybe I can make a lumberman out of him.
Excitement ran high. Royal subjects ran wild. And the palace guards ran interference. Bacchus 9 had arrived. February 20th, Parade Day. And the kitchen began to bustle. The crew had to be fed. Well, energy for that throwing arm has to come from somewhere. No energy crisis here. Then the call. Everyone to the dressing room. Gentlemen? And last-minute alterations to costumes, if you please. Henry Winkler, Bacchus 9 himself, was undergoing that special metamorphosis that only Carnival can bring about. In the dressing room, the crew went about the tasks of costuming with the usual quiet, restrained decorum befitting the occasion. Pinocchios, pirates. Old King Cole, the merry old soul. And a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, he called for his bowl, and he called for his spot removal. Crew officers, rally your forces. Parade marshal, check your doubloons. It's here. It's time. It's the Bacchus Parade. It's a beautiful night in New Orleans, and hello, New Orleans. This greeting is extended from the famous Goodyear blimp high above Bacchus 9 as this exciting and fantastic parade wends its way past Gallier Hall. Meanwhile, on the streets below, Bacchus 9 approaches Gallier Hall. And leading the parade marshal, of course, a traditional figure of authority.
Here comes the parade marshal.
And now, Bacchus 9 and King Henry Winkler giving his famous thumbs up to the crowd as he rides atop the traditional Bacchus King float of bright, bright colors. Masses of gleaming purple grapes line the side and climb high up to the turning throng. A huge figure of Bacchus sits behind King Henry and raises his cup to the crowd, and Henry enjoys it.
Henry, on behalf of the mayor and the city council and the entire city of New Orleans, we welcome you, King Bacchus. We all join in a toast to Bacchus. Join me in welcoming Henry Winkler. Bacchus this year. Here you go. Throw the cup. Beautiful. And now, on behalf of the City of New Orleans, we have a very special token of our affection and appreciation from our two daughters, Mary and Melinda, the key to the City of New Orleans.
Thank you. I will open it. I tell you, it's an exciting night. You want to be up here? Woo! Hey, this is nuts. Let me tell you, I sit back there. It's true, when I first came here, I was told that if you love New Orleans loves you back. And ever since I got here, I've been treated with only warmth, and I deeply appreciate that affection, because that affection will rule the world one day. Thank you very much.
Winkler, the most popular ruling monarch,
Thank you very much, Mr.
King
Winkler.
Bacchus
Mr. Winkler.
IX. And away we go. Following King Henry, the University of New Orleans marching band. Following King Henry, the 80 members of the University of New Orleans marching band, under the direction of Dr. Milton Bush, and the officers of Bacchus not far behind. The officers ride upon their own float, bedecked in grapes. Soaring columns support a carved portico of tan marble, while scenes of revelry from Bacchus' pagan past are displayed along the sides. Enormous wine bottles flank the grape-topped superstructure in the rear. And coming up fast, the Vigian Vasseret Flag Corps. Another float into view. Happily ever after the theme, and what a theme for Bacchus. Good fairy tales always have happy endings, and these are no exception. The traditional title float hosts the theme Happily Ever After on a large light-encrusted plaque. Swirls of blinking lights in red and gold flash across the faces of clowns. And it's music time again, with the West Jefferson High School Band making their initial appearance in the Bacchus Parade. What a thrill for these youngsters. 110 members. And with Bacchus' theme of Happily Ever After, why not Aesop's Fables, a float of overwhelming proportions with layer upon layer of riders proclaiming the beloved Aesop's Fables. The fiddling grasshopper, the crow in the pitcher, the hen with the golden eggs, and old Aesop himself, proud to front, and the fox with a passion for grapes raises his head above all. Alice in Wonderland. Ah, what a beautiful story this is. Alice's madcap trip into Wonderland is chronicled on a large float of green. The King and Queen of Hearts stand in the garden of painted roses, while the Mad Hatter just babbles and babbles and babbles. The March Hare runs wildly past the Cheshire Cat, too, you'll notice. And there's Tweedledee and Tweedledum behind Tiny Alice. And Treasure Island is next. One of the best boys' adventure stories glides along the street to the tune of hornpipes and screaming seagulls. A jolly boat slips silently toward a tall pirate ship in a blue dawn, carrying Long John Silver himself. And the Xavier Prep Band, an all-female marching band of 161 members, next on our musical agenda. Jack and the Beanstalk, told and seen as never before. The interior of the evil giant's castle in the sky is revealed to the crowd as tangles of broad-leafed vines lace in and among the varied forms on the float. Notice the stacks of gold coins standing by a brass-bound cache and the gilded singing harp overseeing the poor cow. Sleeping Beauty. All right, up everybody. Prince Charming sits astride a magnificently trapped horse which rears high above the heads of the crowd as this beautiful fable rolls by a happy crowd at Gallier Hall. Here's the Tulane University Marching Band, 80 members. They've appeared at the Liberty Bowl, on ABC television, at Disney World, and in Mexico. Ribbit. Here's the Frog Prince, a brightly arrayed frog with cloak and crown diving past a lovely young princess into a pond of lily pads. A multitude of toadstools surround the figure of the handsome prince, and they're throwing doubloons. Banners wave gaily atop the many spires of the prince's castle, and towers raise high above the float's deck. Everybody loves it. Mother Goose. She has her own float, crowded with the many characters of her beloved stories. Little Boy Blue, he's asleep in the haystack, while the three blind mice race toward the little old lady's shoe house. Dominican Debs march into view. Beautiful black and white uniformed group of 40 young ladies. They've won first place in state and regional competition.
The UNO basketball game, Super Bowl of '74 in the state.
Everybody's favorite, the float with a happy ending that wags. It's Bacchus, the lovable dinosaur, traditional with Bacchus, making another appearance, carrying the merry riders in barrels strapped to his side. What a labor of love indeed. 1001 Nights depicted next. The stories that took 3 years to tell were told in a palace much like this one. Bright awnings float above a keyhole-shaped postals, flanked by the potted palms set in multicolored urns. Notice the flying carpet, too, and now here comes Cinderella. All the elements of the graceful tale of Cinderella unfold. The buckets, the brooms, the mops of a poor maid's life give way to the grand ballroom of the Princess Palace. The glass slipper shines below the glittering carriage that leaves the beautiful Cinderella to the affair. Throw me something, mister. And the Jesuit High School Band, a great organization following their drill team. A fine band, again proves an asset in the Bacchus Parade. Peter Pan, the innocent yet cruel boy who would never grow up, stands with sword in hand above the crocodile. Swirling waves flow across the seas of Never Never Land, past Skull Rock and the Singing Mermaids. Remember Peter Pan who said, "Oh, I never remember those I kill," and which child does? Captain Hook's many-deck ship glides by. And the crowd is enjoying every moment again. Watching Bacchus 9 roll by Gallier Hall, and Tom Thumb is not to be outdone. The little man who made it big is seen all over his own float. On top he sits amid a pile of bright daisies and a block of glowing green dragonflies, one of which he rides high above the float. The Southern University High School Band, 100 pieces strong, precision, pace-setting band, marching beautifully in the Bacchus Parade. Could we have happy endings without Snow White? All the darkness of the famous tale of the beautiful but evil queen pours from a float of deep blue and lavender. Gold gleams in the dim recesses of the dwarf's mind, and lights dance in the dungeon of the queen, who stands before her magic mirror, mirror on the wall. 3 of the dwarves ride atop the float behind the lovely young Snow White. gnarled hand holds a huge red apple out for the crowd. And Hansel and Gretel. Here we are, one of the great stories of all time, lost in the dark, scary forest. And the wicked witch is waiting. And she's followed by the Andrew Bell Junior High School Band.
Colors are blue and white. The Andrew Bell Junior High School Band. Playing "Do It
Oh, we all know the story of King Midas, whose touch turned everything to gold. He throws a golden plate laden with golden food towards the crowd. Drapes of gold float among coins and bars of gold. Even the water in the fountain turned gold at his touch, as did his lovely daughter, who stands above the tableau. King Midas, with his arms raised in resignation, prepares to meet his fate, surrounded by wealth immeasurable. Gold, gold everywhere, and not a drop to drink. Ah, the happy story of Pinocchio. Jiminy Cricket stands before the house of the little puppet maker who wished for a son. Painted gingerbread lines the windows and the balconies. And Pinocchio in his long nose sits atop the billiard balls, which made asses of everybody, while the sly fox looks out from behind the float. Gallier Hall, a scene of revelry as Bacchus 9 rolls again. The Wizard of Oz. The Emerald City of Oz gleams in the far distance, beyond the fields of sleepy poppies. The goal of the four companions is reached only through many adventures displayed in bright colors. The selfish forest of talking apple trees and the castle of the Wicked Witch of the West rise above the float deck while winged monkeys issue forth. The ornate balloon that brought the intrepid Oz prepares to carry him back to Kansas. Little Red Riding Hood. We must have the story of the wolf and Little Red Riding Hood and Grandma, and there they are. Ah, she's on her way to Grandma's house. The woodsman is seen among the trees, and a large figure of the little darling stands on the forefront, while the wolf, poorly camouflaged, waits at Grandma's house. The Phillips Junior High Band, black and gold colorful group, has as its mascot the Vikings. Once again, the parade route took the royal entourage through New Orleans' biggest rent-a-palace, the Louisiana Superdome. And what a finale. Aladdin and his genie ride a veritable gargantuan float. A giant with stacks of riders hosts another giant on the front. Massive folds of drapes in many bright tones hang from curved platforms tiled with multi-hued diamonds. Beautiful, fantastic float. And a spectacular finish to the 1977 Bacchus Parade. Awaiting the revelers at the end of a long but loving trek through jam-packed streets. A party to end or begin all parties. The Bacchus Dinner Dance. Some members warmed up to the festivities ahead, others conferred, maybe comparing this night's efforts with past spectaculars. No doubt about it, Bacchus had done it again, and New Orleans loved it. Bands played. Kings dancing. And the celebration of the reign of Bacchus IX went on into the night. And into history. Happily ever after. And after. And after. And after.
For you here on behalf of the City of New Orleans and the Bacchus Carnival Organization. I'd like to hereby crown you king of the 1971 Carnival season for Bacchus, King Bacchus. See you in New Orleans.
Thank you.
March 4th, 1973. A very important day for the people of planet Earth. This was the day chosen by Bacchus, god of wine, for his annual visit to the Earth. March 4th, 1973. An important day in the history of the Earth's great motion picture industry. But this was also the day selected by the god Bacchus to begin his greatest project, the production of a motion picture, a movie about the movies. This is the story of that day, the day when Bacchus goes to the movies. Because the success of a motion picture depends largely upon the film's featured performer, Bacchus selected for his star the most talented performer of all times. His name, Bacchus. Taking the form of a popular earthly movie star, one known and loved by audiences all over the world, Bacchus arrived in the great city of New Orleans, where his loyal followers celebrate his annual visits with great excitement, enthusiasm, merriment, and frivolity.
This is Bob King Bacchus Hope. I'm delighted to be here. New Orleans, famous the world over as the Crescent City, and I'm not surprised at the welcome I got. How many tourists bring their own crescent?